First of all, I will give you a small introduction on RIPEstat. The second part will cover all the new features we implemented since the last RIPE meeting. And after that, we're going to have a small tutorial. I'm going to show you how to embed some widgets, and we will also have a sneak preview on the next generation user interface on RIPEstat. After that, we're going to look at the future perspectives, and after that, we're going to have a small discussion about RIPEstat, and we would like to have some feedback from you guys. So, first of all, the introduction to RIPEstat. Most of you will be already familiar with that. So, what is RIPEstat? RIPEstat is a modular and extensible toolbox. It provides the data that you can use for network troubleshooting, for data analysis, and also scientific research. I mean, we coined this term one-stop shop for internet related data for that. So, important thing about RIPEstat is that it's work in progress, and for that, it's driven by user feedback. And to show which development we're going to have with RIPEstat, we have these periodic public demos. And yeah, of course, one important thing is that you, as our users, will take part and provide us with enough feedback that we can drive RIPEstat even further. So then for the new people in the audience, I would like to just go through some basic things. First of all, I want to explain what a widget is, where you can find help if you don't understand a widget, and what the RIPE data API is. For that, I'm going to switch to the browser. Okay. So, I think we have some kind of... Okay, let me see if that works. Okay. So, if you open stat.ripe.net, yeah, perfect. So, this is the landing page for RIPEstat, and well, you can query for internet-related resources like prefixes, IP ranges, and AS numbers. What we're going to do is we first query for the AS number of the RIPE NCC. It's AS quad 33. So, what we're going to see here is a bunch of widgets. And widgets are, in a way, just a visualization of data that belongs, in a way, together. So, for example, we see the resource overview that shows you the name of the AS as well as the AS description. And if you scroll down, you see more ASs, more widgets. For example, the WHOIS widget, which is based on the WHOIS database and tries to be some kind of visualization for WHOIS data. As you can see, we have quite a lot of widgets, and some of them might be a bit more complex to understand. And whenever you get lost, there's one important button you can press. That's the info button. So each of the widgets has got some kind of info field that's on the bottom. If you press it, it will present you some kind of information about the widget. So, for example, what data source it's based on, and how to interpret the widget, also the visualization. And to fully understand the concept of RIPEstat, I think it's also important to understand what a data call is. Because the widgets are just a visualization of the data calls. And the data call is, for each of the widgets, you can see the data call also in the data source. So that is the pure data. The widget just provides the visualization for the pure data. So as an example, if I just copy this link, open a new tab, and copy that in there, you're going to see what the pure data or the raw data for the widget is. Okay, So far to the basics of RIPEstat, and we're gonna go back to the presentation. So basically, what is new in RIPEstat? What have we added since RIPE 64? The first main feature, I would say, is the object browser. So the object browser with the support of history. I mean, basically, that is an exclusive thing we just enabled for the RIPE meeting. So since the beginning of the RIPE meeting, and if you're a member of RIPE, so if you're an LIR, and you go to RIPEstat and you log in with your credentials on RIPEstat, then you will be able to use this feature. And this feature enables you to navigate the RIPE database and see which parts of the data have been changed what time. So, excuse me. Yeah. So if you go to the object browser, when you're logged in, you will see some kind of drop-down list where you can select when this specific object was changed. And I mean, I don't want to go into details for the object browser because this will be covered in details in the database working group on Wednesday morning. Another major feature that we added was the RIR prefix size distribution. This is basically a widget that is based on RIR stat data. And it shows you how many delegations, so basically allocations and assignments, are below a specific prefix. So if you query for a specific prefix, let's say a /8, then with this widget, you're going to see how many delegations are for each RIR in a way. That could be handy if you're doing some kind of prefix size filtering. On top of this widget, we built one of our special pages. And this special page is called the size distribution of registered IPv4 prefixes. On this special page, you see the same information just aggregated over the entire IPv4 space, and it's grouped per /8. So for all the 255 /8s, we're going to show how many delegations are within that /8. And that's aggregated over all RIRs in a way. That special page will be also covered in more details in the routing working group on Thursday. So just in general, the special pages can be found on the landing page. On the left side, there's a box with links. Apart from the special page for the registered IPv4 addresses, we also have a special page for the Japanese earthquake last year, as well as the internet outage in Egypt. Okay, then another major feature that we added was the AS neighbor history. The AS neighbor history is based on routing data, and some of you might already know the AS neighbors widget, which shows you how many neighbors a specific AS has at a time. What we have done with the AS neighbors history is just add history to that data. So basically, over time, you can see what ASs appear to be a neighbor of a specific AS. And so together with that widget, we also provide some kind of controls, and the controls include filtering or sorting of the data. Next major feature is the anti-abuse info. As we found out on our feedback lists, so comments, was that a lot of people were requesting some kind of information about anti-abuse contacts. So people found some kind of IP addresses that they thought they hacked them or something like that, and they tried to get more information on RIPEstat about that. So based on that demand, we decided to create anti-abuse info, and we knew that the database group already had some kind of data call for that. That was the anti-abuse, the abuse finder, yeah. And we already heard that it had some kind of issues. What we tried to do was, was with that widget, not to just spit out some email addresses and then maybe encourage another spam, but we tried to use the data what we already had on RIPEstat and put the anti-abuse information in some kind of context. So what we added were some checks. First of all, if someone is querying for a specific resource, IP resource, then we checked if this specific resource was within a special network. So, for example, if it's private address space, then we wouldn't give out any suggestions for anti-abuse information. Another check was the prefix size check. So because we think that if you look up for a prefix, then it's less likely to get specific information than if you look up a specific IP address. Another check we implemented were the blacklists. So if a specific IP address was already listed in a lot of blacklists, then the likelihood to get successful anti-abuse information, or, well, the process of sending in some kind of information for anti-abuse might be less successful. And another restriction that we implemented in that was that we only give out anti-abuse information for resources that are within the RIPE region, basically. Details on this widget will be covered in the anti-abuse working group on Thursday. All right, then other features we implemented since the RIPE 64. We added a data call that was the forward DNS data call. And on top of the forward DNS data call, we created a widget. Its initial purpose was to serve for the IPv6 launch day, to check if a specific domain already had a quad 3. And I mean, we have to admit that although this widget is not available on stat.ripe.net in the result set, but it was promoted as part of the IPv6 launch day, a lot of external sites implemented it, and for an external point of view, as a widget that was embedded in other pages, it was one of the most successful ones. Then, what else? We also worked on supporting different widget sizes. So since you can embed a widget on different pages, sometimes there might not be enough space to embed a widget. So what we worked on was the space a widget occupies. So if you have only a smaller space than the default size of a widget, then the widget will adapt to this space and just show less information, but it will still be quite useful. I mean, it also depends how much space we have available for a widget. So that's something we also worked on. Another feature, well, not feature, I mean, that's basically to make the usage of RIPEstat a little bit more easy, was the URL structure. So basically, under /data, you will find everything that's related to the data API. Under /widget, you will find everything that's related to the widget API. And under docs, okay, I mean, that's in a way self-explanatory. You will find all the documentations for the data API as well as for the widget API. And then we have the special pages. So all the special pages are collected under the /specials. And yeah, then another thing that happened mid of August was the decommission of the former data API. I just want to mention that briefly because most of the people that use the database already switched, and the old version of the database API is not available anymore, but you will get information if you try to use it to switch to the new version. Okay, then we have another feature that was added since the RIPE 64 was improvement for the address space hierarchy. Before, we were only able to use RIPE database information for that, but we added the APNIC dataset. So with a click of a button, you can switch the address space hierarchy between showing the information for the right database or APNIC. Then other new features we worked on, one was general performance improvements. For some of the data calls, we got a performance improvements of about 90%, which is, I think, quite amazing. Then we released the new RIPEstat mobile version. We fixed some bugs which appeared to be in the previous version. Another improvement that we did was the user interface. So we improved the user interface for the routing history and as well as AS neighbor history, which I showed before. Then the reverse DNS widget now supports prefixes up to /8. I mean, that was specifically important for LIRs that try to use the reverse DNS for bigger prefixes, and they were complaining that up to a /10 was not enough, so we improved the reverse DNS widget to support /8s. Okay, then the next thing is the tutorial. With the tutorial, I'm going to show you how easy it is to embed a widget in your own page. And yeah, for that, I think I have to, well, that could be a bit difficult because I'm not mirroring the page. So let's assume we are on LR, which has got a web page for customers, and we want to pimp it up a little bit. And for that, we want to include a widget that, for example, shows how many blacklist entries are found within the prefix that we are managing. So the first step is to go to RIPEstat. Okay. Oh. So for one thing, if we want to see our own network, for example, I mean the AS or the prefix, this is shown in your network. So if you just go from within your network to RIPEstat, you will see your AS and your prefix you're in that box. So we just click on that prefix. So we assume we want to show the information for this prefix. Then, well, we can pick basically any widget that's on the page, but we want to see the blacklist entries for that, and that's there. And then we're going to look for the embed widget button. Well, it will pop up, and then we'll see the embed code. What we're going to do is we copy the code that's within the box, and then we go to our HTML page. We open it with text editor. Okay. I already know that the content area is there, so we paste in the code we copied. We switch to the browser. Yeah. And then we reload the page. Yeah, with this one we already see that the space is, well, the space of the widget is breaking the design of the page. So that is an example when we have to customize the widget and just choose a different size. So I go back to the text editor, and then I'm gonna change the size to small. Go back to the browser. If I reload the page, voila. I mean, you see that it's using up less space. The configuration, or how to configure the widgets, is all included in the documentation, in the widget documentation, which you can find under Docs. So if you want to configure the widget, this will be the first stop for you to find the information to actually work with the widgets. Okay, then. Yeah. The next thing that I want to show in the browser is the user interface changes we applied to RIPEstat, because there were some kind of complaints with the layout we had, because all of the widgets were just stacked on top of each other, and the widgets came with different data sources, different purposes, and it could have been a little bit messy. So what we thought about is to change the user interface to something that's a bit more cleaned up. And you can actually already see what we came up with. We have a link on the result page that's some kind of sneak preview to the new user interface. So if I click on this one, you'll see that we are working with tabs, and the tabs are in a way reflect the organization of the widget. So basically, we have a at a glance tab, which shows you an overview, or well, widget that can be used to show you an overview of the resource. Then we have a routing tab, which basically contains all the widgets that are related with routing, as well as widgets that are related with DNS, anti-abuse, database, and geolocation. The number on each widget shows you how many widgets are loaded within that page. Okay, then if we go back to the presentation, that was the first step we took in improving the user interface, but there are many more steps or phases ahead that we want to apply to the user interface. The next step in improving the widgets will be that we add controls to each of the widgets, and we would like to do it on the top of the widget. So basically, all the controls you see in the bottom, like the source data, the embed widget, the permalink, and the info, should go on top, as well as some additional features like minimize the widget, maximize the widget, which would be, in a way, some kind of full screen. And also some controls that will be used in later versions. So the basic idea about that is just to clean up the user interface of the widgets. Then in the next step, we want to add user-defined views. And I mean, what we have right now are, in a way, static tabs. So you cannot really change it. And the idea about the user-defined views is that you create your own tabs where you can drag and drop widgets onto that tab, and it will serve as some kind of template for further queries. So if you query for a specific resource and you use one of your customized views, then all of the widgets will be loaded with that resource. And of course, you can reorder and rename the widgets, and it will also be possible to share your template of the widgets. The next step in this process will be that we have some kind of clipboard functionality. The difference between the clipboard and the customized or user-defined views will be that you drag widgets onto a tab, but instead of just getting the widget, the type of the widget, into one of the tabs, you copy the widget with the settings. So basically, you can set the resource, you can set the timeline, and that lets you, in a way, compare different resources. So it would be possible to create a comparison between two different ASs. And of course, with this one, it should be possible to share the results. What we also want to add to this kind of clipboard feature is a way that you can add text. And if you can add text in between these widgets that you can basically customize as however you want, it's just a small step to have some kind of reports. And that ties in with the next step, with the further ideas we have, that we're going to take these reports and integrate it into different other resources like RIPE Labs. And also another feature that comes along with the further ideas is to encourage more of community building. So we could do that by extending the commenting features, or just create some kind of bundles where we show on the landing page the most popular clipboards. So that's basically all the things that we developed so far, and the outlook on the on the next generation UI. What I'm gonna show you next will be the future perspective for the next time. First of all, the last quarter of 2012, and then 2013. So for the next few months, we will work on the next generation UI. I mean, what I presented before. Another thing that we are working on will be a command line interface. So we would also like to have some feedback from you if you would like to have something that could be used as a command line interface and which let you interact with the data API. Another bigger thing we are planning is some kind of country-based results. So we created a page that was similar for the internet outage in Egypt, so where we were able to monitor all the prefixes that were announced from Egypt, and we could check their visibility state. And I think, in a way, it would be something similar. So instead of just querying for an ES, for a prefix, or for an IP range, you could enter the country code for a country, and then you will be presented with some kind of overview of the aggregated information that are related to this country, of course, with internet-related data. Then next year we want to implement Atlas data, make it available, make the measurements of the Atlas network available for in RIPEstat. So it will be ping measurements, trace routes, also user-defined measurements. So that will be quite an interesting data set, I think. Then further ideas we want to implement next year will be the migration of other RIPE-NCC services that are right now floating around on our website, like AS in use, prefix in use, IS alarms, or BGBVs. And another thing that some people were calling for was the support for Android. And well, that's something we want to tackle next year. We have to see if we are going the path with HTML5, if Android will catch up with the features that are promised with HTML5. Then we could implement it with the web standards, or otherwise we might go the native way and develop an application for Android. Okay. That's basically for the future outlook, and right now I would like to invite you to, well, talk with us about future things we're gonna plan and in RIPEstat, and hopefully we get some kind of feedback from you. Yeah.
So Blake with L33, and personally, if I can just express a preference for doing the HTML5 plus JavaScript route rather than an app, that would be really great, because it'll work on anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think it doesn't need a lot of explanation that if you could go with the web standards, then it would be preferable. But we saw it with the last development for the iPhone. Some of the features that were implemented natively are just faster. And 2 weeks ago, I attended a masterclass on HTML5 with Mike Smith from W3C. And I mean, the basic ideas were there. It really depends if the browser vendors are catching up with what they promised. So, well, I mean, we'll see next year. So if the technology is there, then of course we're going to use it. I mean, for us, it's much easier to just maintain one implementation than if we have a flow. For example, we would also have to maybe BlackBerry. I mean, it depends what our community wants in a way. So according to that, we try to pick the best technology for that. So.
Since there aren't huge queues behind the microphones, I would like to ask you if you can go back to one slide before. So the future outlook. My name is Vesna. I'm a community builder for measurements and tools at the RIPE-NCC, and it is my job to find out what is it that our community actually wants us to do. So at this meeting, we are going to be guests in several other working groups and ask very specific questions to certain parts of our community. But since we are here now, I would like to have at least show of hands to give us some feeling about the preferences that you have, so that we can focus on one rather than the other one of these features. So, for example, How many of you would like us to work rather on the command line interface than on the country-based results? So who is for the command line interface? Okay, I hope that somebody's recording this because I can't count this fast. Yeah, and who would like more country-based products? Yes, yes. Okay, so now into, okay, so let me ask another question. How many of you would like us to implement some kind of automatic notifications or alarms for the things that you can actually see in RIPEstat? So alarms, hands up. Okay, quite a few. So these were just very simple questions. Now I would like some more content on what kind of command line interface. So if somebody can just shout. So, okay, or let me ask a poll again. So we had for now one idea to have something like a who is interface to the RIPEstat, and on the other hand, it would be just some scripts that interface with data API. So who would like something who is like? Two. So to have like who is and then point to the stat.ripe.net rather who is.ripe.net and then get extra information that the RIPEstat has. So after this clarification, another show of hands. Okay, 4 instead of 2 hands. Cool. And who is more for the script that interacts with data API? Okay, more or less the same. Yeah, also. Okay, so we have a bit of a feeling now what is it that you want. Well, although we are going to ask in other working groups, this is quite important for us, so I'm also going to ask here. We implemented a pilot of showing the history of IP allocations to our members. And how many of you would like us to continue publishing this after the RIPE meeting? Show of hands for yes. You like to keep on seeing the history? Okay, who would like us to not show this? Okay, I see you have some concerns. I hope you will come to the database working group and actually explain why do you object for us to show the history. What are the other questions that I had in mind? Oh yeah, so Christian showed you the prefix size distribution. We have it now in 2 formats. One is that you can look it up interactively, so you can put any prefix there and get prefix size distribution, and the other one is a page per /8. Who prefers the static page generated every day per /8? 1. Who prefers the interactive widget where you can query whatever you want? Cool. Well, we have both, but so if we are going to work on adding more features, we will add it to the data call and the interactive widget, because that's obviously what you like, what you prefer. Any other special wishes or ideas? I just put it on Twitter, but just to say it also here, if you embed one of our widgets, please let us know, because then we will mention your name on a special page on RIPEstat to give you some more promotion.
Maybe another thing that I would like to ask is, since we have this split between the data API and the visualization, so the widget API, I mean, for us, it's very important that we know what is more valued by our users. Is it the data API or is it the widget API? Because, I mean, we have to work basically on both, but it depends how we shift our workload. So would you prefer to have more data sets available via the data API that you can use well, in a raw form? Or would you rather prefer some kind of widgets that are more visual in a way? So who would go for more data sets, for more data API calls? Okay, all right. And who would prefer a stronger visualization point on RIPEstat? I mean, let me ask one question. Are you happy with the visualizations we are doing? So please raise your hand if you are. Okay, all right. Okay, good.
Another thing that we are going to ask in the anti-abuse working group. So right now we are very, very careful in showing you the abuse contact information that we find in the RIPE database, because it's quite difficult to do that in the absence of the actual standard for recording this information in the RIPE database. So we can only guess. Would you prefer us to guess in the direction of giving you more information, even if that's not completely correct? Or would you prefer that we are more careful and not showing you the information that we find, but we are not completely sure that this is the correct one? So the first is show of hands for those who want more info, even if it's false positives. Show of hands for those who want less info, but then you are more sure that it's correct. Okay, well, you're kind of divided in different sections of the rooms, which is quite toevallig in Dutch.
I think another question that ties in with the anti-abuse or abuse finder is, I mean, if we should put our energy into that data call widget, because there is a proposal. It's the 2006-11 proposal that will make it mandatory for any OAuth-num, INET-num, and INET6-num object to have an abuse contact field. But it will still take, even if the proposal will go through, I guess we will know that by Thursday, it will still take a long time to have that data available for all the objects. So I would guess it will take around a year. So should we put the effort in making an abuse finder thingy, although it might be obsoleted in 1 year? So raise your hand if you support the idea of abuse finder. Okay, all right, that's interesting. Okay, I mean, we're gonna take the discussion, the detailed discussion about the abuse finder into the anti-abuse working group, and we will talk about that, well, at the anti-abuse working group. Yeah.
All right. Oh, it is working. Keep in mind that you could simply use a confidence factor with the information that you're presenting. A confidence that you know you have abuse information, abuse contact information, or that you may be, or that you guessed it. You can satisfy both sides of the equation here. And in theory, like you say, if 11-6 actually passes, then the confidence factor will, in a year or so's time, be 100% for everybody. In theory. Yeah. So you have a way of satisfying everybody on that particular piece of information.
Thank you.
Okay, so I guess if we have no further discussion points, I just show you how you can interact and give us feedback after the RIPE meeting. It's mainly focused on the web page. So if you want to share your feedback with other users, then we would like you to use the comments on RIPEstat. If you would rather prefer to keep it private and just send us a private message, then use that at ripe.net. And well, if you want to keep being up to date with the changes on RIPEstat, then follow the Twitter feed on RIPEstat. So that's all about the feedback. We have still another point before we conclude the demo, and that's the quiz. The quiz with RIPEstat. I mean, you can win a prize. That's the good thing. And the only thing that you have to do is, if you go to this URL, ripe.net, stat.ripe.net specials and then quiz, we're gonna present you with 3 clues, basically. each clue will be published today at 6 o'clock, tomorrow and on Wednesday. And you could use RIPEstat to find the answers for these clues. And what we want to have in the end, I mean, we're looking, the solution for this quiz will be a code word. And as soon as you have got all the clues solved, send it to stat@ripe.net. And, well, from all the correct answers, we will have a prize drawing. And we will announce the winner on Thursday. So it will be, I mean, the prize will be a bottle of sake. So if we announce it on Thursday, there will be still enough time to enjoy the prize, basically. Yeah. Yeah, that's the end of the presentation. The next demo will be published on RIPEstat. There might be a demo in between the next RIPE meeting, but if you go to stat.ripe.net, you will find all the information you need. And the session and the slides for this session will be published on Labs, on RIPE Labs, and you will find a recording of this presentation on YouTube. And yeah, that's basically everything from me. I wish you a nice social and have a nice evening. Okay, sorry. That was a bit too quick.
I'll show one labs page. Could you go to the browser? We are here the whole week. We will be present in many, many working groups, and that's all documented in RIPE Labs article, which is slightly down on the page. Now just go down, down, down. Live at RIPE 65. If you can click on that one. Yeah, there is a very pretty table made by Miriam, which lists where we are going to be present with presentations and opportunity to interact with us and to answer most of these questions that we already asked today. So database working group, anti-abuse, routing working group, and finally measurements working group, where we are going to announce who got a bottle of sake.
Okay, that's it finally. Okay, then enjoy the social and see you tomorrow. Goodbye.